Hey, I'm big enough to admit it. I was wrong about Donald Trump. For months I've said he was reckless, disorganized, dishonest, a man without a plan. Well, after watching the Republican convention, I've had the pink-colored glasses knocked off my head. I was wrong. Donald Trump is the smartest politician around. And the change in perspective is easy. The media keeps writing all these negative stories about Trump. They see the glasses half empty. You have to see the glasses half full, because Trump is all about optimism. So in hopes of aiding some of my left-leaning friends, and with apologies to Stanley Kubrick, here's how I learned to stop worrying and love the Donald. The liberal media likes to call Trump voters low-information voters. But what does informed mean? It means having information. Nowhere does it say that that information needs to be accurate. Thanks to services such as Fox News, The Drudge Report, and Breitbart, Trump supporters have been inundated with information. As such, Trump backers are not low-information voters. Further, critics go after Donald because his plans lack any detail. Typical of the bourgeoisie media out of touch with the American public, Donald understands American voters. Details are the great divider, separating voters who will carefully study policy papers from those who won't. This is not how you bring unity to a polarized country. The best way to keep America united is to keep the details out of politics. And there's the complaint that Donald didn't reveal how he plans to stop terrorism and domestic crime. Of course not. You don't tell the enemy your strategy months in advance. That gives them time to plan and thwart it. The only way to win a war against crime and terrorism is the element of surprise. And the only way to ensure the plan doesn't leak is to make it up as you go. The brilliance is there if you just open your eyes. The lack of black attendees at the Republican National Convention? Signs of racism? Far from it. The fewer black people that are present, the more significant each one is, making their lives matter. And on the matter of honesty, one of the key issues in this campaign, people expect politicians to lie. So if you lie consistently, you're being more honest. When most of what you say is true, people have a hard time knowing which are the lies and which aren't. And that inconsistency is deceptive. Stats. People love stats. Stats are like Twitter for complex information and are realistically suited to people's busy lifestyles, allowing voters to feel informed while relieving the pressure of actually becoming informed. In this way, they make politics more inclusive. Donald understands stats, like saying that the U.S. is one of the highest tax countries in the world. That's a stat people can understand. But Donald understands that the U.S. education system ranks behind those of 24 other developed countries. So that stat makes it unlikely that people will challenge the accuracy of other stats. And the typical elitist media voices got it all wrong about the plagiarism in Melania's speech, labeling it as some damaging blow to the campaign, instead of seeing it for what it really was, an opportunity for outreach to bronies. And some of you typical elitist snobs mock Donald's expression of sympathy for the plight of African Americans in inner cities. But nobody has a better overview of inner cities than Donald. He's constantly flying over them in his helicopter. And let's look at some of the other highlights of the RNC that were not reported by the mainstream press. Booking Scott Baio the same night as Joni Ernst? An Easter egg for fans of classic sitcoms. Rudy Giuliani, selflessly braving the risk of electrocution when his spittle hit numerous electrical devices. And Ben Carson's speech, a symbolic victory for Americans with narcolepsy. Mike Pence complimenting Donald's offspring with the comment, "You can't fake great kids." A touching tribute to Trump's ex-wives and the family nannies. Fran Tarkenton, the former NFL great, talked about looking around and wondering, what the hell's going on here? A very personal admission of the effects of numerous concussions.
And I need to ask, what the hell's going on here?
The surprise unbilled appearance of Paul Rubens as Reince Priebus. On the negative side, I will say that I thought that Silicon Valley billionaire Peter Thiel was being very petty when he made a snide reference to not fighting stupid wars. It was his opponents who brought up Donald's small hands. He was just defending himself. At least Donald's getting well-earned praise for his open embrace of the LGBTQ community, a love that's demonstrated in the party's platform to liberate gay people from the burdens of marriage and raising children. And as perhaps the ultimate example of liberal media bias, when Obama was nominated, all the attention was on the candidacy of a black man. Yet nobody's talking about how Republicans broke the color barrier, nominating literally a person of color. And on a personal level, I'm hopeful that the election of Donald Trump as president will create the proper environment to greenlight a sequel to one of my favorite movies, Judge Dredd. You see, that's glass half full, optimism, and that's the Donald Trump campaign. I hope I've removed the fetters of liberal bias and allowed you to see the truly glorious era that lays ahead. I know that, as a Canadian, I'll be watching closely on election night, hoping that Donald Trump gets every vote he deserves. I'm Ed the Sock. Follow me on Twitter at Ed the Sock. And don't forget, I also trade in sarcasm.